Care Ops Nation, Kevin here with Home Care Ops, and today we're talking about a topic that I've been close to and a fan of for about almost 2 decades now, and that is web design. And in this community, with the 8,000 or so home care owners and operators that are part of the home care owners community, I'm sure you've seen a lot of people ask about web design, who to go with, best practices. Hey, check out my website. What do you think? Getting feedback. Those are all amazing conversations. And while I could talk about that, many of you have heard me talk about that. I want to bring Eric in today. He's with Dovi Solutions. He's someone I've known for years and someone I consider to be an expert in the space. He's worked with hundreds of businesses over the years. And I just want to bring him in to help share some insights from a web developer, web designer, a programmer perspective, things that he's seen businesses either struggle with or things that they've been successful with in the web design space to have a really effective website. So Eric, really appreciate you joining me today. Can you help share maybe a little bit more about your background? I know I've known you for years, but help the audience understand, like, how long have you been in this space? Like, what's Dovi Dev been doing in the world of online and design and development?
Yeah, me personally, I've been a developer for the last 16 years. I've done all kinds of things from little startups to big corporations and large e-commerce stores selling millions of products. And now I'm doing Dovi Solutions. So for the past few years, I've been more focused on helping small businesses figure out their web presence and make things work there, building tools also, and just helping them get things going in the right way without some of the craziness that you often get with Dovi or with web development.
Awesome. So one thing I've noticed in the world of home care, digital, a combination of all the digital aspects of what someone's presence might be and all their branding, all their marketing, digital is the second most effective way for home care agencies to be found. Word of mouth is the first, and that's phenomenal. And online presence, your website can help absolutely support word of mouth, because where are people going after they hear about you? They're going to go to your website, right? And so it's really critical for a home care agency to have an effective website. And there's a million opinions on what an effective website is. So let's kind of back it up to the foundation of a website and look at what businesses might need to consider even having involved in their website from the get-go. What are some of the main considerations someone might need to have before even starting a website project, Eric?
First thing you need to know is what your goal is. So like you mentioned, there's a few different things. Like, is this a tool for finding new home care professionals? Is this a tool for getting out there who you are and what you're doing? Are you trying to get a lot of conversions, people coming in and maybe getting new clients that way? So really figuring out your main goal is the first thing. And then, there's a lot of other considerations depending on what you want to go into. Are we talking like content, technical?
And also like integrations. Does a website need to work with the scheduling software? Is that even an option with the scheduling software with, or lead management tools like a CRM, right? There's a lot of different technical things that a website might or might not be able to do based on how you start the project and finish the project, right?
Yep. There's all kinds of things that a website could do. So it's important to figure out what you want yours to do. So you're not just going into it thinking, here's the whole world, and now I'm going to figure out something, whatever.
So basically coming up with a definition of what that minimal viable product is, right? What's going to get you out there and work. And yep. I'd say more importantly, scalable. I know a lot of companies get into a website and within 2 years, they've outgrown the website, right? So we'll talk today a little bit more about that, like how to approach a website project so it's scalable, not locking you down. But looking at a lot of things, I know when I was in your space and building websites, a lot of people ask that golden question of, and I'll ask you, Eric, how long is this project going to take? Right. So what are some things that home care owners can do better at the beginning or before the beginning of a website project to be in a better place to help you do your job efficiently and quickly and beautifully for them? What are some things that home care agency needs to be better prepared with coming into a website build?
Yeah, we're pretty quick about actually building the website. What I'm usually waiting on is content and photography from clients. And I tell people, like, we can build a website with any level of this. If you've got barely any content, we can put something up and we can use stock photography, but it's not going to perform nearly as well as if you have good original content with your branding and everything else that came from you who knows what you're talking about versus me with just a small paragraph that Google reads and moves on, or maybe a chat GPT artificial intelligence written something or other that uh, doesn't really have the expertise that you do. And then the photography, stock photography works great for a lot of things. There's so much stock photography out there, especially in the home care space. I have some clients that when they come to me, they're like, just don't use the picture of this lady because she's on everything. She's like the first thing when you look up seniors in any stock photography thing, and she's on every website. She's everywhere. So
I'm very familiar with that East European old lady and her caregiver. Like, she's everywhere. I've seen her
Yep.
everywhere. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. And the website, a big part of the website is to convert. It's not just to have something there, right?
Mhm.
It's something that should hopefully spark an emotional connection and response. And it should fit in with your brand. So copy paste content, regurgitated photos, probably doesn't do a great job of convincing someone, or at least creating a positive connective memory with your brand, does it?
Yeah. Well, and copy paste content is going to mess you up in multiple ways because if you're looking at this website over here and you say, I really like their website, I want to do the same thing, and you copy everything they have. Well, you didn't get any better than them because it's the same thing as them. Also, Google looks at it and sees that it's duplicate content and you don't get any credit for it anyway. So yeah, you definitely want it to be your own, and the photography as well. That's more of a visual thing. People can see, oh, we saw that same lady on all these other websites. They just use stock photography. There's nothing original or special. These probably aren't their clients, that kind of thing.
So something I talked to a lot of home care owners that we coach about is the difference between, I'll call it dictionary, explanatory content, the what home care is, versus more of a connective, emotive content that
Mhm.
helps focus on the experience. Have you seen experience-based content perform better than Webster's dictionary content about home care?
Especially right now with what Google is doing. Um, that's the one thing that artificial intelligence can't duplicate is your own experience, your own situation, like actual real experiences are going to play better than anything else. And like you say, it plays into people's emotions better too. So if you're Google or if you're the person reading the website, you're going to read more if it's personalized, if it means something instead of it just being definition or Wikipedia or dictionary kind of thing.
Yeah. And if they have an emotional connection, really everyone's going to think that they make decisions based on intellect. They've researched. In the end, it's an emotional connection, especially in this space in home care, where they're going to feel confident and comfortable. They're going to say, you know what, I want my mom or dad or myself, if they're aware and can make those decisions for themselves, I want to have that experience, right? As they see you share testimonials and case studies, that kind of content is just king. All right, so abrupt change here, keeping things moving forward for these folks listening here. Back when we started, there wasn't a whole lot of options for people to just go build their own website. Now there are so many, some that are almost four-letter words to me, right? But what are some of the real pitfalls or missed opportunities in some of those? And if someone is just really budget tight and they need to go do something, what are your recommendations for avoid or consider before just jumping into a out of the box solution for getting a website built?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of options out there. You got Weebly, you got Wix, you got Squarespace is a little better, but still in that box, I think.
GoDaddy templates.
GoDaddy templates are a big one. Yeah, and if you just want to put something together, then you can do that and you can get something together fairly quickly, or easily, one of the two. Um, but it's you run into roadblocks so quickly. Oh, I need to do this thing. Oh, that seems simple, but it's not, because whatever this template is doesn't fit that. And it could be something as simple as adding a video, or a button that does this thing instead of that thing, or a form. Like, there are so many things that people run into that are just simple, and oh, that doesn't do it anymore. Or I need to change my branding a little bit more and make it fit my business instead of trying to fit my business into this little template. um, and yeah, so I have lots of clients that come to me who have just finished building their website on those, and they're like, I can't do what I need to do, we need to start all over. So they've already
Mhm.
gone through so much work, but now they're starting over because what they what they did just hit a wall and they couldn't go any further.
One of the biggest concerns I hear home care owners, or any business, right? I've worked with hundreds of businesses over the years. Their concern is editing. And there's this perception that if you use these solutions, editing the website is easy. Um, if someone goes with a professional programmer like yourself, is editing more difficult, or about the same, or easier even to make changes to websites?
Yeah, a lot of web development companies are going to kind of lock things down, and kind of you have to go through them to get things edited. I try to hand as much of the reins over as I can and still be here as a resource. So after I get done, I do a training with my clients and show them how to use it. And really common, they're like, "Oh, that's really easy. I could do that." Because it's the editor that I use, or the page builder that I use, is called Elementor, and it's really common, and it's the biggest player in the market right now for sure, and it has been, and it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. But it's a much better page builder than any of those Wix, Weebly, any of those, and it's more powerful, but also it's much more user friendly. Anybody could get into it and start dragging and dropping and figuring things out, and anybody that is a little bit more advanced can really make it hum, really make it do great things.
Yeah, Eric and I are the make it hum people with Elementor. But I got to tell you, like over the years, like, even projects I've worked on with Eric, I've had people be intimidated with Elementor because it's something new, and I'm not the web developer. Half an hour after showing them how to edit their own pages in Elementor, like they're excited because then they're not being nickel and dimed. I think that's a great transition to the next question I have for you. Um, when looking at a development agency, what are some of the things that people should consider? And I'm going to start with a couple. We kind of hit on it with, complicated programming. I feel like because of where things are out in the world, and it is a challenge for people, people with a web dev goal and building for businesses. I think it's really hard to say this is our platform only, this is proprietary, right? Because so much is open sourced. WordPress, Elementor, there's open source and paid for versions of Elementor. Um, there's really not that world anymore. Really, what you're looking for is expertise. So if you're getting with someone that's going to hold you hostage, where you have to go through them all the time, and every minor change becomes a project rather than just doing something as easy as sending the email to the developer in the first place, right? That can be really cumbersome for the business. So beyond just that, the freedom and flexibility, and an agency that can do that for you, what are some other key factors someone should consider about a web developer before making a decision on who they go with?
Um, I know you mentioned this already, but I just want to tag on to the hostage situation, because the like really it's a bad situation to be in, for one, but also it's a red flag, because if a company's relying on hostage situations to keep you around as a client to make money, then they probably need to, because they're not providing a good enough service. So if they're providing a good service, you're going to stick around with them without having to be held hostage. So that's one thing, and along with that, just when you're setting things up, it doesn't really matter who builds everything, but make sure you have ownership of it. That's a sad tale I hear all the time is people have to seriously change up how they have things. They might need to have a new domain, a new website, a new everything, because the person that had their website owned everything, and they don't have access to that person. They don't have access to any of the stuff. So just always make sure you have ownership. And now most of the main services are gonna give you an option to give, like GoDaddy calls it delegate access, others call it collaborators.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can give somebody admin access to your account or parts of your account without actually having to give them ownership. So if something happens, if you want to go with a different developer, if you just need to do something on your own, you can make those changes, and it's not a big deal because you own everything.
And that goes down to the domain too. Like, you register the domain, you don't have someone else register your domain. You pay for hosting, usually, right? That's general rule there. And then not just the content, but the design. You should be able to migrate that website wherever you need to.
Yep. Yeah, and with WordPress, if you have access to the back end, the dashboard, admin area, you can migrate it anywhere as long as you have that access. But you also have to have access to the domain.
And so the website build, you get everything done. You find an agency that can work with you, and I'd add another level here with finding a development agency. I'd say go with someone with experience about building and technology side and working with a variety of businesses. I know there's some that build just for home care, but I'd say, that might get a little too turnkey sometimes. There are some great ones that do that, and they focus on, they're really good at still continue to provide a great service for home care. And that can be an asset if you're really not sure what you're doing. But having a business with a variety of experience that does web design, they can do home care, they can do other ones. And the other ones they're doing actually help them learn a lot about what trends or changes need to be even applied to the home care space, right? So they don't look at stuff through too much of a funnel. Yeah. But definitely look for the experience. And budget-wise, plan to spend a little bit, right? I'm going to just put that out and float that, because you really pay for what you get in this space. And considering how, even with word of mouth, your website's still a focal point. There's going to be a lot of direct traffic from word of mouth. For the digital space, any connection to social media, your website is kind of like the core poster board of your business in today's economy, in today's industries, in the online power that is, right? Phone books are gone. You have Google search and Google local business that pulls to your website. It's really important to have someone that knows what they're doing more than just cheap. I'd say cheap usually creates scalability issues. Cheap usually creates missed opportunities. And those missed opportunities are the hidden expense that business owners don't think about, like loss in conversions because the website just doesn't flow well, or there's technical issues, or the hosting and other things are a little bit too cheap and dirty, right? Now, when the website's built, here's a scary sentence I tell everyone that I worked with, and I still continue to tell, home care ops as I'm working with them, and it's been my reality. Our website's never done, right? So static content is also a red flag to Google, right? If the content hasn't been refreshed and updated over time, there are a million things that can go wrong with website if they're not protecting it properly or updating it properly. So what things should, once a website's done, is built, and they're launching it and putting it out in the wild world of online, what are some things that these agencies should be considering when it comes to maintenance and any SEO modifications? And the biggest one is hosting. I see a lot of people mess up on hosting.
The biggest thing for content and refreshing it is just make sure you're going to your website every now and then, read through stuff. You're going to have things that are going to update in your company, and it's going to be really natural to update those. If you have things that you could share, that you could put out in a blog, that's great for SEO as long as it's real. You'll get like people that offer SEO services, and they'll spit out like a blog post every month that'll be fairly meaningless.
Dictionary content,
which Google's hitting hard against right now.
yeah.
But if you've got real stuff that you can put out there, and it doesn't have to be earth shattering, just real, that you can put out there on a somewhat regular basis, like that blog post will help a lot as far as keeping things fresh.
I might interject here on the real somethings. We're coming up on a holiday season here by the time this video goes out. And there's holidays throughout the year. So whenever you're watching this, this might be relevant. But having an article of things for people to watch for when they visit their loved ones that might reveal a need, right? And how to take care of that as a family member. So helping educate your consumer base. Or if you're part of an event in your community and seniors came out, just document that, showcase that. If you got great feedback from a bunch of clients, put together a case study, put that up as blog posts, and then link that blog post to any service that you provide page that's relevant to what you're talking about, right? So that'd be super easy stuff to do, but very overlooked. And it's a great, easy way of keeping the website fresh, right? Maintenance. A lot of people don't understand that, the website gets launched, you do an amazing job. 3 months, 6 months later, what's happening with those websites?
Plugins go out of date, themes go out of date. Yeah. So, and the WordPress itself will go out of date, or sometimes things will change entirely. Plugins will go away, add-ons if you're using Shopify or something. But yeah, things change. And there's some automation that we can set up to minimize that. And that's part of the training I give to clients afterwards, is like, here's how you can check on these to make sure they are updating properly. But yeah, for the most part, it's just a review of things. You're just going through and making sure everything is still good. And you could pay somebody to do that, and that's kind of an insurance thing. You just know that somebody's in there looking at it and taking care of it and going through it. If you have the bandwidth to do that, though, it's going to be either a good additional thing or a good thing, period, depending on your level of going through it. But yeah, you can't just set it and leave it. And it's like there's search engine marketing also. So if you really are trying to get lots of people to it, it doesn't end just because you got it up. You can advertise people get to it and everything by you're essentially paying at auction for people to click on things.
Awesome. All right, and then the final technical thing, hosting. When they're looking at hosting, I don't think there's super cheap hosting anymore, but there is inadequate hosting for sure, even at some budgets that might surprise some people. Yeah. What are the main things that hosting contributes to that a home care agency should consider before they just sign up for a host?
Biggest thing is page speed, just whatever resources you actually have. Most, I like to call them brochure websites. They're just, you have your basic information, might have homepage, services, contact, about us, frequently asked questions, that kind of thing. But you don't have like e-commerce or anything intricate going on. Most of those are going to do fairly well at a pretty low level of hosting. Usually the bottom tier of different packages. I mean, there are hosting out there that will not suffice regardless of what tier you put them on. But for the most part, you can try out the lowest tier and go to the website. And if it seems sluggish, you can usually bump it up pretty easily. But there's hosting that is like WordPress specific that's going to make everything WordPress a lot easier. And there's hosting that you're going to have a server and you're going to have to manage everything that goes on that computer that is holding all your website files and everything else. And you've got to deal with all that stuff. And that can work for WordPress, but it's typically a little bit harder. So you're going to have to either have somebody in it doing it for you, or you're going to have a higher level of understanding of that. And there's hosts like you have GoDaddy, Bluehost, Flywheel, WP Engine. Flywheel and WP Engine are really good WordPress specific ones, but Bluehost has an option for that. SiteGround does, GoDaddy does.
There's a lot of different ones out there.
Yep. I try to stay away from GoDaddy for everything I possibly can, because GoDaddy is a great one to bring you in on little prices and then charge you for everything. And the next year is always so much more. And I have so many clients that a big part of what I do is I go in and unsubscribe them to hundreds of dollars of worth of things. And so that pays for the first part of whatever they paid me to do, because I just saved them hundreds of dollars right there.
Stopping the bleeding.
Stop the bleeding. Yep.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that we didn't touch on yet with hosting is ones that have good backup setup and malware protection, like, and recovery. Because there's so much happening right now. In fact, one of the biggest reasons why you see those updates happen 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the road at a high frequency in this space is there's a lot of malware out there flowing. Yep. So a lot of the updates, some are going to be technical updates where it's like, hey, we added a feature. Whether you're using it or not, we still added it. So you need to update for it to make it work. Or it's a back-end programming thing, or it's because they had a breach at a minor to major level and they had to create a software patch update that is now necessary for your business, right? Yep. So
yeah, that's the biggest reason to keep up with your plugin updates, is just because they're patching holes in security.
Yep. All right. Kind of end on a odd note here. A couple odd notes and then more of a positive note as we wrap up here. I'm going to share the weirdest thing I saw on a website project I worked on a long time ago. And then you'll share your weirdest thing you ran into on a project that probably fell behind on updates as you came in for triage. And then then I'll let you share like, good outcome from someone doing web dev and SEO the right way. All right. Mine, years ago, an e-commerce store came to me. Their website was super sluggish. They had ample hosting, but it was super sluggish. I dug into their e-commerce store files and found that some overseas company had been running an entirely separate business off their host. They were in there. There was a parsed out, entirely separate website in their hosting. They had no idea. They had no idea. Another one on the similar vein, one that took people's ideas for for engineers and people that did basically engineering school stuff. They were mentors for engineers in engineering school, and they had people submitting all these ideas, and they had engineer mentors on there giving ideas and feedback based on their proprietary stuff. It's all proprietary. I found using one of my programmers back in the day, we found a back channel where people in China were getting access to all that information. And we actually found a few of those projects being started in China, like that China was improving on. So this stuff that people thought was being submitted securely and proprietarily was being ripped off by Chinese manufacturers. So those are the two. Whole entire different store because some malware created an entrance point for them, or some maybe a password was not secure enough, and they were using their hosting, and they had a whole separate website on their hosting platform, because you can do that on certain hosting platforms, right? Yeah. And he didn't know about it, but it's taking all of his hosting resources. And then back channels where a website was being used for another country to benefit off of their proprietary stuff, right? Those are my two worst, probably in 20 years of this world.
I was working on that one's good too. I was working on an e-commerce website, and we got a denial of service attack, which is just being hit over and over and over again very quickly. And this was an e-commerce store that sold millions of products, and we just launched this store with millions of products, and so all of our pages went out there and everything. And Bing, as fantastic as they are, they decided they were going to crawl the website for us as quickly as they could. And so Bing actually took us down with a denial of service attack. That was fun.
Bing.
We had another one where, like, a pretty common malware is somebody will come in and they'll put in code that is going to like link out to some other website, usually pornography or some horrible thing. But we had one that it didn't link out to anything. It just loaded an e-commerce store that wasn't that, or like wasn't the client's store. It was
just hijacked the URL to point somewhere else.
Yep. It was, but
I've seen that so many times.
It was just fully loaded just fine. You'd think nothing of it, except that's not what's supposed to be there.
Yeah, it used to be that attack happened mostly on the mobile version because there was an assumption that consumers saw the mobile and business people only check the desktop. So you'd have a perfectly fine desktop view, but the mobile version would be some dating website that you probably didn't want a car buying customer or a home care seeking, prospective client to come across instead of your business. So yeah, definitely some. And that's because of lack of updates, right?
Typically.
And when you fail to keep up on those updates, you create these opportunities for malware to come in and slowly inject itself. All right, so on a positive note, Eric, share with me a project where you feel like you really helped the business overcome some of those early hurdles and get to a point where they had what could become a successful website, right out the gate, and leading on to those other ongoing maintenance and SEO things.
Yeah, a lot of people come to me and they've got just maybe a general idea of what they want to do. They might not have any content at all. So I'll share templates with them and kind of give them an idea of what a minimal viable product would look like. Did a website for it's not in the home care space, but it's a company that sells stonework and stuff, and they had a lot of different types of products that they really had a hard time organizing and getting people through to. And I was able to work with them, and we came up with a good way of organizing it that both they understood and that their customers could really easily understand. And they've just loved it. It's really helped their clients get through and find the stuff they need, and they're selling and doing a lot better with all of that.
Awesome. So user experience is a huge part of this too. Something we didn't really tee in on. I mean, I guess it's implied in design, right? But it's not always that way. But as you look at options, and we've talked quite a bit here about various aspects of web design, and web development and technical. But as a home care owner looking at what you need to put out and map out there, coming to a developer, a programmer like Eric, and having a good idea of what you want to express, being open to the expertise, if you're going to an expert, of how to map that out and structure it, those are going to be pivotal to either having a website that can lead to success or having a website that, as we've talked about a couple times here, requires reworking 3-6 months in, right? Or right at the end of a project, you find out it's not working for your customer base. So having someone that brings experience to the table, that can guide you through that, help you map out where to put things in the menu, where pages need to be built rather than just paragraphs, especially in breaking out the various services home care owners offer. That way it is easier for the person looking for home care services to find what you do and how it might impact and affect them. So those are all big key parts of web design that, I mean, Eric and I could go on for days about this stuff, or I can. I don't know, but it's a fun space to talk about. And I just want to help you home care owners feel that are looking at this and viewing this with the right approach to your website project, whether it's a full new build or it's revisions that you feel might be necessary. Hopefully this video helped you come up with some thoughts and ideas of how you need to ask your current web developer or ask a new web developer about where to go with this. I'll put some contact info for Eric here in the comments or in the description of this video. If you do have questions, email. It was a great way to reach out to Eric, I imagine. Put a link to his website so you can check him out a little bit here. And I know he is in this community for the home care owners community. So if you do have questions, ask and tag him, Eric Isaacson, and they'll respond and give you some feedback and insight there. Or if it's something that probably is best to take offline and discuss with you privately, he'll work with you to connect with you. But you'll probably see more from Eric over time here. He and I have worked together quite a bit over the years, and there might be some other questions that we ask him and have him answer in the community as we see some different topics become regurgitated and repeated. Might bring in his expertise to help answer that for everyone. But yeah, hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully this gives you some ideas of what you need to consider that maybe you haven't thought of as a business when it comes to the World Wide Web. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment, and I'll be sharing this on YouTube, also in the Facebook community. So feel free to comment in the Facebook or in the thread in the comments for the video. And look forward to seeing you guys in the next interview with the next vendor. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.